Hello, and welcome to the first of our sessions of Dune, Adventures in the Imperium. This is the new game from Modiphius, which uses the 2d20 system. That's a system I've run before I tried out years ago, Conan. And more recently, I've been running Star Trek Adventures, an express version of that, using a 2d20 system, and I've come to appreciate some of the facets of it. The book is not actually in my hands yet. I did pre-order it. I've been working from the PDF. I've printed out some pages. It's pretty lovely. So I'm looking forward to actually having it in hand. My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this session is part of the Gauntlet Gaming Calendar, which is an online community that has its own calendar devoted mostly to indie and story games and some OSR. You can find out more about that at gauntlet-rpg.com. This game, as I was saying to the players before we started, is going to aim for the feel of Dune, maybe not the accuracy of it. There's a lot of material in this universe, and we're going to try and get the feel of it and build our own canon in some ways. So what I'd like to do before we go too much further, before I get into our setup explanation and our safety tools, is have our players introduce themselves briefly, say who they are, and if you have something to push, boost, call out for, you can say that, or you can just say, hey. Fraser, I will start with you since I've known you the longest of all of the people here.
Sure. So I'm Fraser Simons, pronouns he, him. I've played with the Gauntlet for years now. I'm a tabletop game designer. People know me from my cyberpunk games. You can get my games at samjokopublishing.com. You'll probably spell it wrong, but that's okay. There's nothing like it, so it will probably come up regardless. Or my name is very unique anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Excellent. And then Harry, I don't believe we've played together, have we?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
This is my first Gauntlet game.
Oh.
So trying some new things out. I've got a little bit of social anxiety, so
Sure.
I'm working through it and like that. And I'm probably just gonna see how things go.
Sure, absolutely. And we'll talk about that in a bit when I get to safety tools and some tools that we have for you on that. Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle, Bilta, pronouns she, her, and I've been playing with the Gauntlet as a member since about January. So I'm still kind of new, but very excited to be in this game, as I just was in Dan's running of Star Trek Express, and I am realizing that I really enjoyed the different systems, so I'm looking forward to this and also being in this game because Dune is great. So
excellent. And then Brandon.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I've been with the Gauntlet since about the middle of last year. I came to it from a heavy LARP background. I've written half a dozen major LARPs. And my first play, which is hopefully going to get put on this year, it was going to be last year, but then the theater closed. So we're trying again in the fall.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to talk for a while because this is our sort of setup for framing of the game, what the tone's going to be like, all of the safety tools and things like that. So I'm apologizing ahead of time before I go into this. But the basic idea, we start with what we call CATS, which is concept, approach, or aim, tone, and then safety for me. So we have a group of rising characters. Our players are going to be playing rising characters within a house. They are all loyal to that house within the Dune universe. They're going to be dealing with problems that face the house and try to maneuver for the advancement of that house. In particular, we are setting this in the just as the Dune novel is starting. We know that in the novel itself, that House Atreides is given control of Arrakis by the Emperor. There's lots of swapping with House Harkonnen. At the same time, in my version of this, there are other houses that are getting shifted around, that are being maneuvered into different places, essentially in some ways to provide cover, but in other ways to shift powers. And the particular planet that your minor house has been given was abandoned by the previous house that was sent into exile. So you're going to be taking over house. You're moving from that status of being a minor house to a major house and the challenges that come with it. So your house is going to be exploring a new role, and you as characters will be exploring a new planet. We'll make some determinations about what that planet's like as we go along here, but that's going to be our framework for play. So the approach, how we're going to do this is we're going to be building both a house, defining some features of that, what it feels like, what we kind of want the tone of it to be, and then we'll be building characters within that house. And then our goal is to engage in exploration, a kind of adventure, but also then intrigue. We want to make sure that we get at least one gala or party that goes on here, that kind of thing. We'll make sure that is there, and we'll make sure that you have a suitably unpleasant rival / adversary that you have to deal with within this. Your characters aren't like the High Mentat or the High Doctor, but you may be the person who is hoping to move up into that role. You might not be the chief of security, but you're one of the senior people that at someday will be stepping into those shoes. That kind of gives us the excuse of why the four of you would be on the landing team effectively in some ways, if you can imagine that analogy. The tone of the game. Now, Dune itself is very sort of mystical sci-fi. There's a weird level of tech in that artificial intelligence and a lot of the things that we associate with classical hard sci-fi aren't present. So it's not science fantasy, but it's got a little bit of that sort of science, retro science, medieval feel to it. So that's the general feel. It is serious, but it's also in some ways high romantic in other ways. That's our general tone. And we'll find out how we as a group want to play with that. And if we need to stop and talk about, oh, maybe this isn't the tone that we want, we can do that. Related to that, if something does feel like for you it goes wildly off tone, we have some tools for you to mark that out. We have a set of layered tools that we are using for safety. We start at the baseline with lines and veils. These are tools for marking out things that we don't want or we're uncomfortable with in the game. You'll find this on the Lines and Veils tab of the character keeper. And I do want to apologize. I'll take a moment to this. This is one of those character keepers with way too many tabs. I've put a lot of information in there. So you may have to scroll over along the tabs on the bottom, and I apologize for that. But the Lines and Veils is at the start. A line is anything that you do not want to have at the table. This is something you don't want to see in the game. You're not interested in it. You're not comfortable with it as an aspect of play. For example, as a GM, a game facilitator, I mark torture as a thing. I don't want that in a game. It's not something I'm interested in running or dealing with. So we've got a list of examples. If you want a line to be on that, you can mark that in that box. If there is something that you feel you want a line on and it isn't listed, feel free to put it in at the bottom and mark it for that. A veil, again, is anything that if we come to it, we're probably going to fade to black. The thing might arise, we might have a hint about it, but we're going to turn away from it. It's not going to be on camera. We're going to draw a curtain over it. And then the last thing is ask first. This means if something that you definitely want to check in on before this comes to the table, then please mark that. We've got PC betrayal is a good one to put in there, or any kind of PvP. So always check in on those aspects, because they create a whole different level of tension here. Generally, though there is a lot of intrigue in this world, you are all joined and loyal to the house that you are part of. So those are sort of the 3 levels that you can mark out with things. That gives us the baseline for what we're working with. Now, we're going to have things that come up that we didn't cover in the Lines and Veils, or things are going to rise in terms of our play. And in that case, the second tool that we have is the X card. And the X card can be used for if something goes wildly off tone, if you're not comfortable with the way the language is being used by another player, if you're not comfortable with pressure that's being applied by another player, if they're intruding onto your scene or interrupting you, you can X card that. There are a lot of things that we can use the X card for. And the X card, you can do it with this, that sort of gesture, or you can say X card, I want to X card this. If you do, then we'll take that out. We'll stop. The only question that we might ask is, where do we need to cut? Where do we need to fall back to get that set? But you don't have to justify your choices or decisions in that. X card is also used if we start to slide over to something that's marked as a line or a veil, and maybe we haven't quite picked up that we're heading that direction. So that's a good place to use that. One thing that Rich Rogers taught me is, if we're playing and the first couple of times something happens, you're like, okay, I'm okay with it. But then later on, you're like, no, this is starting to wear on me. I'm not comfortable with this anymore. It is absolutely legit to X card something later. So you never lose the ability to do that. Just remember that. And then our last tool that we have for safety is the open door policy. If for whatever reason you need to step away from the table, it can be physical, an emotional reaction to a scene, anxiety, anything like that, you do that. You should absolutely do that. It'd be great if you could tell us, be right back, or we're going to be back in a bit, or I'm not going to be back. Any of those things, fine. You don't have to, though. If you can't, then don't. If you step away, that's fine. We will continue on there. So recognize that is a thing. That also applies to between sessions. If we play this session or 2 out and you're like, oh, this is not the game for me, it is absolutely legit to come back to and say to me, hey, thank you much. Or you don't even have to. You could just say, I'm dropping, and take yourself off the list. These are all things. Your comfort and enjoyment of this is trumped any sort of social pressure that I would apply to you. So keep that in mind. A few things. I mentioned this in the email. Frank Herbert wrote these books in the 50s and 60s. There are some wildly regressive things in these books. There's so much good stuff in here. But then I'll hit something about the chosen one, or I'll hit something about that only women can do this and only men can do this, and certain biological imperatives and things like that bug me. The queer villainous coding of Baron Harkonnen in the books is really apparent on a reread. These are all things that we're not doing. We are leaving those aside. Those tropes we're not playing with. This is not a greedy reboot, but it is a more progressive reboot that we are doing of this universe. Yeah, certainly the fat phobia as well. That there are a lot of things that are in there. Herbert, you can see in the later books where he's starting to walk some of that stuff back, but the books are of their time, and that's not our time. So we will make this our own. I just want to make that clear. And if anyone feels that maybe we are buying too far into any one of those tropes. Again, X card, lines and veils, these are all the tools that we have to pull ourselves back from the abyss. All right, so that's my long spiel. We now come to the mechanical portion of figuring out what our house is going to be like, and what our planet is going to be like, and how we picture that. And I'm going to walk through kind of what that process is going to be to give you an idea of that. We're going to start out with the idea that you are a minor house that's moving to a major house. You have control of a planet. There's some uncertainty about what the planet is. What it possesses will define some of the resources that you have there. We'll also know that your rival has either a planet or a moon in that same system, just so we get that as some pressure. Then maybe other houses present, but we'll figure that out. We are going to define some domains for our house, and domains are the things that our house specializes in. And we're going to have, for our house, we're going to have one primary domain. This is the thing that our house is absolutely known for. That we have this unique skill, talent, or access to resources for that. And then we're going to have two secondary domains, which are that we have access to certain goods, certain abilities, things like that. And to give you an example of what these are like, they've broken them up into categories. And within each category, you can be a specialist in machinery related to that category, or producing items of that category, just having expertise, having skilled workers, or just sort of a theoretical understanding, like you're the forethinking theorist in this particular area. Your house does that. And here's the list of areas that they have. Artistic, so your house, is skilled in a particular kind of art or artistic production. Espionage, farming, industrial, canley. Canley is a term from Dune, which is about the assassination games between the houses. So if your house is an expert in that, you are, you're either producing the machinery or the workers, or have the expertise for assassination. There's military, politics, religion, and science. So those are the big ones that we have there. So I want to go around and maybe have each of us say if there are one or two aspects that are appealing. Maybe we can get a short list of three things, and then maybe from that we can figure out what we want to have as our big domain piece. So I'm going to work in the same order that I did introductions here. So Fraser, as I read through those things, any of those appeal to you? Are there maybe one or two that you're like, that would be interesting?
Well, so first of all, are we playing before the events of Dune or after?
We are playing just as Dune starts. So even as we start, the Atreides family are taking possession of Arrakis itself. So at some point moving along, news will start to reach us of what has happened.
Okay, the things that would interest me then is I like the idea of us having either control of like a power source that is going to be in competition with spice, or like I guess it would be religion, where we're like competing with ideas that can like harm people by them internalizing our ideas and stuff like that, like the philosophical aspects of the of the book.
Interesting. So it seems like an industrial power sources, things like that, and then religion as the other one. Okay, that gives us two, and we're going to build big list, and then we'll kind of do that. Harry, are there a couple that appealed to you?
I like most of those ideas that he just put forward, but I was trying to think of like if our people were known as the best bean counters in the universe. They're master logisticians. Okay, what's called our armies succeed because we have supply lines put in place. Nobody ever cuts our supply lines, and we specialize in taking that out on other houses. Something along those lines. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something a little bit different.
That would be like a military understanding, a grasp of logistics. Yeah, that could be very, very interesting. Let's put that on the list. Danielle, are there a couple that appeal to you?
I do like the things that are put forward. I think part of me wants to go like opposite, like similar, like you're saying that we have either access to power source. I like the idea of farming, that like maybe we also have we're good at farming, but it has to do with sourcing a resource, like a house that maybe is not used to the politics and is being thrown into the politics necessarily. But I also like that. I'm also cool with the idea of I also like the sound of religion. So
a couple for religion. I'm seeing some of that. We've got
I definitely like that, like you said, Harry, the idea of something very kind of dry, something bean counting, logistics, something very dry to contrast with the high drama.
And Brandon, what are you thinking?
So listening and from my own thoughts, there are two things that come to mind. The first one is some people that play a role like the Bennett Tlaxu. So specifically they might be, their expertise might be in biomolecules and things like that are at the very cutting edge. And I don't know whether that's, for medicines, for poisons, obviously the distinction between those is a hair's breadth sometimes. Or for human enhancement. There's all sorts of possibilities there, and and having a strong philosophical baggage or trappings to go with that. And I do like the idea of a dangerous kind of faith.
So I'm definitely hearing, and we've heard this echoed across the board here, that some sort of religious faith that has some complexity to it. And given that I've heard that echoed several times, that looks like that might be our major domain. We'll figure out what the dimensions of that are. I would like to suggest then let's pair that with the logistics. And then we've got, I would say, either the idea of the farming and a resource, or the idea of the biomoleculars. Fraser, if you had to pick between those two, what would you say?
Well, I already got my religion thing. So
Okay.
I feel bad choosing another one.
I like the idea of the biomolecules, like Brendan was saying. If that's in industry or medicine, I forget which one. The idea that like there are people occupied with another thing besides intrigue was mainly my drive for farming.
Excellent. Then let's do this. Let's start with the religion. And again, the four choices that we have are machinery, production, expertise, workers and understanding. And I'll read you the examples that they give here in the book about what that means. So machinery includes churches, statues, prayer beads, religious symbols, religious books, the production of those things. Producing is prayers, hymn, religious and inspirational writings, religious music, those kinds. Expertise is about philosophers and clergy. Workers, essentially people that service the church, community managers, altar servants, choristers. And understanding is new religious philosophies, new forms of faith. I almost think that given what was said, we're either saying expertise or understanding. Does that seem right?
Yeah, I was thinking like I want us to have like knowledge as a virus that we can like,
Okay.
inflict on people.
My only thought on like religion is I would love it if it wasn't entirely evil, because otherwise that would be not fun for me the whole game.
This is good change.
Yeah. No, I think that is essentially, we have established in Dune that the Bene Gesserit have used tools to establish religious faiths to bind communities together, and this can be another variant. In fact, maybe even a competition with the kinds of community building and structural building, and that can be done, inserted as a virus for good, or to inoculate against other things. So I'm going to write down religious understanding, and that'll be the major.
Could we put it as an underpinning of philosophical instead of religious connotations then, maybe?
So like new religious philosophies, or how do you want to phrase that?
Yeah, like it would be a philosophy, and essentially by putting out this philosophy that we would think would be good, people would internalize it in a religious way, as people do with philosophies. But we are not specifically making the dimensions of the faith. We're making the like pyramid philosophy of it, if that makes sense.
The base structure that other people build on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I suggest a phrase?
Sure.
Radical enlightenment. I got a smile from Fraser.
Let's say radical enlightenment. I'm also going to put mimetic and philosophy. I'll just kind of put those in as and we'll figure out what the name of it is. Oh, Harry, yes.
I had a little thing that I wanted to talk about, which was
sure.
When you said you wanted to make it a more philosophical bent with our religion, maybe put out something like our religion is so perfect, or whatever, that we think that we will let it stand up to other people's philosophical attacks on us. We hold forums for people from anywhere else in the universe to come to our planet and speak with our people philosophically, trying to spread the understanding. We're not afraid of it. We're not hiding stuff behind the doors and stuff. We talk to everybody.
Interesting. So you are, as opposed to the Bene Gesserit, your selling point is that you're pulling away the veil of mysticism.
Yeah. Oh, at least that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I like that, because it goes directly against the tribalism that the Bene Gesserit try to inflict on people.
It sounds a little bit like illumination.
I like that. That actually goes with some of the tones I wanted to hit, and I'm sure that none of that is a mask, and I'm sure we're keeping no secrets, really.
Absolutely.
It sounds like unintentionally we're becoming the dispossessed.
All right. So for minor, we are going to have science, I think, for the essentially the biomolecules, do you think that's a case of our having expertise in that, or our actually producing that? What feels more right for that? Brandon, you kind of suggested it. Where do you want to lean with that?
My idea was that we create tailored biomolecules and we export them.
Okay.
So we synthesize new kinds of drugs, new kinds of poisons, genetically specific, chemicals, for the treatment of or enhancement of individuals, things like that, things that are, it's very hard for anybody else to copycat us on.
Perfect. So put that down as science, tailored biomolecules, production, medicine, that kind of thing. And then the last thing we had was military logistics, right? So that feels like expertise. Does that feel right to you?
What I was thinking is if you met a military officer from our planet somewhere else, you'd think that he was a quartermaster. We have the best quartermasters, bar none, in the universe.
And do we hire them out?
Well, probably not in an official capacity, but people who retire and move away, if they take that skill with them, it happens.
Excellent. So essentially have that we can provide a service, and then eventually those people can go out.
So it's more about our focus in war is more about resources and how we assign them than it is like technical skill with the blade or guns or things like that.
Yeah.
But it sounds like expertise and
yeah. All right. So that gives us the domains that we have for our house. They will kind of shape what we want. So I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to put some decisions in people's hands here. You have come from a particular probably moon that as a minor house you had possession of, and now you're moving to another house, to a new planet. So Brandon, tell me about this moon. Tell me about this home world that your house used to have. What is a key detail or feature of that?
Radically terraformed.
Ooh.
It was pretty inhospitable when we started.
And terraformed into what? Like what is the biome that it was reshaped into?
The biome that's reshaped into is subtropical.
Subtropical.
With lots of water. The moon had a nice core, or a significant subcore ice that we drilled, our ancestors drilled down into and pulled to the surface.
So this is what your house has given up, a tropical moon paradise, to take possession of this new planet, to raise yourselves up another level in power and influence. Danielle, tell me, what is the primary biome of the new planet that you're going to?
And can it be like that it already has like a lot of cities on it, or this is a new planet that we are having to put the civilization into?
So the setup that we have is there was a house that had possession and control of this planet and had settled it, but they got in trouble with the Landsraad, or the Chom, or whatever, and were forced to flee.
Okay, I think it's heavily it's a heavily city, and we're having to like install conservatories and places where we can have these beautiful like green forests and things like that. It's kind of like but I think it's very urban.
So kind of
places.
An urbanized industrial world, but now it's been sitting fallow, and you have to come in and try to make changes to that. I like that. Harry, besides the cities, what's the other like planetary feature that is notable?
Okay, so it's a new planet. And we came from a moon. So we'll just say that it's a singular planet in the system. Everything else in the system there's only like the star and this planet.
I am gonna X card that as a thing, because I do want to have a couple other rivals in the system just to make that. Sorry. Yeah, no, okay. That's okay.
Let's see here. The fact that the new planet doesn't have a moon. I mean, there's something else in the system and stuff like that, but we're used to having a moon and another planet close to us, and we don't have the gravitational effects like no tides and stuff on this for this planet. Throws us off a little bit, makes us kind of a little bit uneasy walking around.
That getting there, the gravity's different, the tidal force is different, the timing of the day-night cycle is different. That all of that is requiring some massive adjustments there. Yeah. Fraser, what was the family that fled this world? What were they known for?
Can they have been making a gravity well? Like maybe they create gravity wells in planets, and that's how they were able to get here and terraform it. Like sort of like, if you've seen Interstellar, you know how they have to go to that one planet with lots of gravity and they lose time, but they like somehow came up with the technology that circumvented it.
So maybe a planet that has places of rogue gravity, old experiments left over, that can be its own kind of hostile environment that has to be dealt with.
Definitely.
All right. We are also going to decide some house traits, but we're not going to do that yet. We've got a sort of sense of the house. We'll figure out the traits for the house after a bit. We'll decide, we'll add some names to the roles of the different people. You'll see on the tab there for the house sheet, we've got all these different roles, and we'll get some names onto those at some point here. But now I need someone to roll me a D20 on the roller. Who wants to do that? Fraser, shall we start with you?
Okay. Roll just straight D20?
Straight D20.
3, of course.
Okay.
So it begins.
So this is great, actually. Low is what you want in this game. So this is really the game for you. So you have a major house that is an enemy. However, their level of hatred is just dislike. They dislike you. So interactions with them are going to be at an additional difficulty. Harry, can I have you roll me a D20?
Two.
Is that 2? So they are in competition with you for a resource and a place in market. Harry, what of your things do you think they're competing with you on? Is it the logistics? Is it the biomedicines? Is it the religion?
I would say probably pointedly at the biomedicines, because tailored biology is probably big money anywhere.
All right, so they are competing with you on that sphere. Now that's a major house. We'll get a name for them later on, but know that you've got them out there, a competitor. Danielle, can I have you roll a D20 so we find out how much this minor house hates you?
And I got the 19.
19. They have dedicated all their resources to seeing the player character's house not only fall, but be wiped out to the last person. They will take any risk if it might be seen as an end to the player character's house. So, Canley.
Wait.
Do we know why?
Didn't he roll low on the one knowing? Wait, they only dislike us, but they will dedicate.
Oh no, this is the minor house. You have two enemies.
House. Okay.
As a major house, you get both a major and a minor enemy.
Oh, okay.
So these are two separate things. Brandon, would you roll me a D20 so we find out why they are absorbed in this Canley?
That looks like an 18.
That looks like an 18. Jealousy. One house hates the other for no better reason than they want to be them. They idolize the other house to such a degree that it is turned to festering jealousy. They believe the other house unworthy of the amazing benefits it possesses, or they feel it has squandered all it gives. Given that you have been raised up, I suspect that you were competing with them for that, and perhaps they also have a philosophical bent, and you got the prize that they were not given. This sets the table for us such that we can figure out, I'll come up with names and we'll establish those things. But that gives us our first basic setup right now. So that's our houses. Some of the stuff I'm going to fill in between sessions, and some of it I'll like mark out and have you come up with names and things like that. But for the time being, that gives us a sense of what our house is. We're going to take our first break here. So we're going to come back at the hour and we're going to talk about characters. All right? Okay. All right. In the brief intermission, we decided on a house name. There was one that put forward and I tried to shorten it, and the shortening of it was not good. But we have gone with House Anthier. That'll be the name of our house. And one of the things I'm going to ask eventually is everybody's going to have to give names to 2 NPCs from our ruler, consort, heir list. So I want you to be thinking about that because I'm going to ask you that in the third section. Okay. So let us talk about characters now. So you're going to be making some decisions about your characters, how things go here at the start. The one thing I want to say before we go too far into this is if you make a choice about a talent or a setting of numbers, and like a session or two down the road, you're like, that is a terrible choice. Why did I do that? You'll be given the opportunity to switch your choices around if you find that you've made a suboptimal choice or something that you're not enjoying. We're going to talk about just a tiny little bit about mechanics, so you have a sense of that before we go too far into character creation. I should, before we go too much further, I'm going to check in on our lines and veils. Now, this is a living document, so it can be adjusted, but just so that we're all on the same page, things that have been marked as lines and veils at this point. Right now, we have lines on homophobia, on sexual assault, and on torture. Again, that's where we're starting right now, but if other things get added in, we'll check in at the beginning of session 2. We have veils on eye injuries, harm to children. So anything of that sort, we would fade to black on that. And then we have an ask first on PC betrayal. So those are some of our baselines. Again, we'll check in on that at the beginning of some of the sessions to make sure where we're at on that. Now, you're going to be making some choices, starting with the concept. There are some archetype packages that are on a tab that you can use to frame your character. And there are going to be some details, some numbers you're going to get here. Let me talk about what your stats are in this game, what they mean, and how the system works. You have in this game 2 sets of stats. You have your drives, and those are duty, faith, justice, power, and truth. And this is one of those cases where you'll often make a decision about what you think fits is appropriate. Essentially, what drive is applying to the task that you're doing. Almost like what emotion is driving you at this particular moment. You will have a number beside that, and that is going to go from 4 to 8. So everything starts at 4. It can go up to 8, and I'll talk about what that is. You're then going to have 5 skills. These are battle, communicate, discipline, move, and understand. Again, these are wide and abstract statements there. They can apply to a lot of different things. Sometimes it'll be obvious what applies, but sometimes not. And we'll kind of negotiate about that. When you go to do a task, you'll figure out what drive and what skill applies. You'll add those 2 numbers together. So if you have a 5 and a 5, your total is a 10. And then you'll roll 2d20, and you'll see how many of those d20s roll a 10 or under. Each one that rolls that is going to be considered a success. And you'll have a difficulty number. I'll tell you what the difficulty is for the task. If you get enough successes, wow, you win. There you go. If you get more successes than you needed, that gives you extra stuff. It gives you something called momentum, which you can spend immediately to do extra things, or you can put it in the group pool to spend later on. There are 2 or 3 wrinkles with that. Your highest ranked drives are going to have a drive statement with them that sort of says what you feel about that drive. And if the task that you're doing fits with that drive statement, then there's potential benefits to that. You can spend determination on it. It can give you some benefits. But if you would do an action that goes against your drive statement, then you can either take a penalty and get a point of termination, or you have to rewrite your drive statement. You can clash with it. You can question your drive. So you're going to have those for your top 3 drives. Are going to have statements. The other ones are not. And then the other wrinkle is that you'll have focuses under some of your skills. You may have multiple focuses under a particular skill. If you have a focus, let's say you had knives as your focus with battle, that means that if you roll your skill number or less, like let's say again, if in my example, your skill number was 5, you added 5 from your drive. If when you roll those D20s, any of those D20s roll a 5 or less, you have a focus, you get an extra success on it. So essentially counts double. Anytime you roll a 1, even if you don't have a focus, you'll get an extra success. So look, there's a critical success, wonderful things. It's not like, oh, wait, there is a problem. There's a wrinkle. Yes. If you roll a 20, that creates a complication. And essentially that adds in either I can have that complication occur immediately, or it can go into the GM's threat pool, which I use to do awful things. Imagine that the threat pool is a set of money that I get to spend on hard and soft moves. That's what that is. So those are the things. That's what the stats are going to be doing in the game. It's what a drive statement is. It's what a focus is. The other things that are going to modify this is you're going to have some talents. These are essentially feats, moves, special things you're going to have access to. Now, talked about a whole bunch of stuff there. But the question is, what do you want to be? What kind of character do you want? Does anyone right now out of the gate have a really strong sense of what they would like to do? Danielle, I see you raise your finger there.
Oh, that's okay. Brandon already has a name in the character keeper. So.
Oh. Well, Brandon, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Danielle. What are you thinking, Brandon?
Sometimes name in the face, define the character. I don't know what else my character does. They probably do something else. But one of the things that they are good at is that they are known for is enhanced interrogation. And it's a very gentle thing. It's almost the antithesis of torture. It is getting information out of typically out of captives.
So essentially an expert questioner.
Expert questioner, and sometimes pharmacologically enhanced.
I'm going to X card that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
There's strong feelings about that.
Yeah. Oh, were you looking at the empath too, Brandon, on the archetype? I was just browsing over the archetype.
I haven't figured out the archetypes yet.
Okay.
Yes, in which case she just knows how to get under people's skin. And get them to talk about themselves.
That seems perfect.
When they don't want to.
Building up a rapport, establishing mutual ground, and using that as the basis. And
it ties into our philosophy. It is basically, kind of gently blindsiding people with questions and approaches they don't expect. And so they're carefully constructed defenses. It kind of runs their psychological defenses, and it puts them in a state of rapport.
So I can definitely see a few archetypes that could fit with. Under the socialites, there's the courtier and the envoy. Under the academics, there's the empath and there's the spy.
It sounds more like an empath.
Okay.
If that's not stepping on Danielle's.
That's okay. Well, I'll say what I was thinking of, and then I was looking at I had another idea as well, which I may switch to. I was looking at empath because of the truth sense aspect of it. I was looking at the idea of somebody who helped facilitate these like debates that Harry was talking about, like these like hosting people. The idea that we have people come challenge us so to have somebody who's publicly known to tell between truth and falsehood, like a kind of true believer in that sense, to be like, well, I can tell that this is true and I can tell that you're lying, and just as kind of like but it would be a very different, it's like a very naive sort of thing. But I think that probably fits better with your concept, Brandon. And my other thought was somebody who is like a military person. Like, you know, we have a lot of people who are thinking a lot of thoughts, and the one thing that they forget is that the truth is very dangerous and it invites a lot of enemies, and somebody's got to be thinking about that. And all of our military resources are usually devoted to the idea of like, well, let's make sure everything's well funded and everyone's well fed. And so the idea of someone who's out of place because they think of defense and fighting as an art form, perchance, I also like that. So I think that probably fits in better.
So you're thinking more of a duelist or a sergeant?
Yeah, I was looking at duelist, but I think somebody a bit more, let's see. Yeah, somebody like sergeant or protector, like somebody probably a bit not rank and file, but like I'm always going to be associated to this house because I'm sort of part of the furniture, I'm part of the infrastructure.
Yeah,
I make sure no one gets killed at our lectures.
So there's warrior and protector too.
Okay.
Which are
right.
are both sounds.
Oh yeah.
Like what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
especially protector.
Yeah.
If it's about keeping people safe.
True. I do like warrior. I like the name of the talent to fight someone is to know them. That sounds amazing. But I guess I'll decide between.
Yeah, take a look through those. Harry, do you have a sense of what you might be looking at?
Yeah, it's kind of strange. It's like I think all three of us started at empath because that was the first thing that I looked at was empath. But looking over it, I like your guys' ideas, so I'm just gonna go a different direction. I'll go with an infiltrator, just a sneaky person. What you call it? I'm not necessarily a spy. I just specialize in getting things in and out of places, something like that.
Moving in, getting yourself into position, being able to find your way in. I think that's a good one. Fraser.
I would like to be, it's kind of hard to articulate, but I would like to be the kind of person who is almost like an apostle of our philosophy. So I would go in and sort of plant these notions in people's minds, and it would be like the mind games aspect of it.
Well, there's envoy, there's spy, there's courtier.
It could be a herald, actually.
Oh, let's look at that one. Oh yeah, focusing on communication, talent, rigorous control.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Often have faith in a greater plan or purpose for their house.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I am the embodiment of our philosophy.
So go ahead and kind of Anya, the character, put down which archetype that you've chosen. And once you do that, you're going to put a rating of 7 for the primary skill listed and 6 for the secondary skill listed.
It was 7 for the first one?
7 for the first one and 6 for the second one. And you also record the trait that is listed, which is usually just the name of the archetype.
Okay. I lost the sheet.
Okay, I finally found the character sheets. Okay, there they are.
Oh,
All
I'm
right.
sorry. Yeah.
No, okay. is any particular color me?
You could do orange or green. It looked like the two that are still open.
All right, okay, I'll take the green.
Okay, I will hide the orange column then.
Do the focuses correlate to the first things that we, the primary skill and the secondary skill? The focuses would be command in discipline and composure and communicate for me?
That is correct. Yeah, you will assign those two focuses. The archetype gives you those. Eventually, you're going to get two others, but you're going to start with those two right now.
Just catching up. Are we supposed to be messing with the numbers right now?
Oh, yeah. So for the archetype, you're going to get one skill at 7 and one skill at 6. And then everything else will be at the default 4 for the moment.
Okay. I'm going to make 2 windows so I can have my...
Okay.
That's what I do.
That is
always good. I always have to multi-tab character keepers.
That's a good idea. I really enjoy the complex character building in the system, but I'm always lost around the numbers. I'm like, wait, which numbers are we at? Okay.
You'll also see under the archetype, it lists a talent. There is a tab in the keeper that has all of the talents and the text of all the talents in there. So if you want to, you can go ahead and copy and paste the text for the talent that you get from that there. And you're going to get 2 other talents. You don't have to choose them now, but you might skim through and look at the other talents before we move on to drives. Just so you can kind of get a sense of what's out there. I did that dumb thing where I didn't make the format on the character sheet and the format on the talents tab the same. I should have had a title line in the text. I didn't do that because I'm a dummy.
There's so much in this character keeper. It's really impressive.
It's how I learned these games. Is I build the character keepers, literally working through those. So
makes sense.
Yeah, I just popped the text in as a note.
Oh, that's smart.
That way, I remember when I was playing with Darren before, I would always insert it as a comment and it would email him every single time. And he'd be like, Fraser, just add a note, please.
I didn't realize it would do that. That's great. I'll have to do that to Rich. That'll super annoy him. So once you've got your talents, your skill numbers, and the focuses that come with those skills, you will pick one of your drives of the 5 that are there, and you will give it a rating of 8. That should be your most important drive. You're going to get to assign the other numbers in play, but right now, this is the one that is your most important one. And once you've made that choice, you're going to come up with a drive statement for it. There are examples on the Drive and Focus Examples tab for each of the drives. And feel free to come up with your own.
Yeah, I hope everybody's are reflect, at least the 2 that are at the IC reflect our main truth focus of our religion. Brandon, I was going with the truth will set you free mentally when I saw the empath too, so I'm biased for that one.
That's fine.
the last thing you're going to do after you got all those things, assign that, is you're going to decide an asset that you have. The game has an interesting approach to equipment, kind of making it a key thing that you use in particular ways. Most assets are easy to pick up. They're just standard things, knives, weapons, all of that kind of thing. The assets that you have should be like a special thing, a thing that means something to your character, that has some significance to them. It can be a functional object, a tool, or it could be a religious symbol, or it could be a book or a mirror, or whatever you want. You can define that. You should define that just briefly there as something that you have that is important to you and kind of reflects your character.
One asset.
Hmm?
One asset.
One asset, yeah. Okay. In play, you'll get to define 2 more, but this is the one that we're kind of starting with as your key element.
All Lowell has to do really is throw something to complicate if we think something's true or not, and we're all like,
Yeah, there's a little bit of the veiled DNA in there that I'm seeing in some of those statement questioning things. But
yeah, will it be you mentioned like wrestling with a drive, like if you ever want to change your statement, is it something that you'll go through with the character, kind of like the veil? Or
yeah, if it happens like at a crucial time with a roll, then you can say, oh, I'm having a crisis, and you'll get a point of determination which you can use to spend to do things, or it just becomes a kind of a complication for you at that point.
Okay. We haven't gotten to roll yet, right?
To rolling? No.
No, to defining our role.
Oh, to defining role. Role is actually something we haven't defined. But I'll tell you what it means in terms of this is your role is kind of what you are in the house. Again, as I said early on, like you're not the war master, but you might be the person who's going to be the next war master, that kind of thing.
Real quick question for my asset. I took, I guess, the modern equivalent of like a skeleton master key, which is just, small little plastic card that works on most locks, but, just depending on. something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
that's perfect.
Okay.
That's perfect. It's unique. It fits with your character, and it's something that you can bring to bear mechanically too.
Okay, so that.
Do people have an idea of what roles they want, just so I can get an idea?
Let me quickly read through what the book has as its list of roles. Oh, actually, I don't need to read it to you because it's on the house sheet. It has a list of their like ruler, consort, heir, advisor, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you thinking, Fraser? Are you the up and coming soon to be high envoy?
Yeah, I was thinking envoy might fit, but I wasn't sure if other people had a notion about envoy too, based on their character keeper. And I think I could fit what I want to accomplish with the character into a number of different slots. So I just didn't want to take it up if somebody else thought they liked envoy as well.
Envoy certainly fits for Serafina. I'm trying to think what else fits. I don't see her as being scholarly.
Or a counselor or an advisor or anything.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for me it's going to be kind of obvious, probably in the spy master area.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the distinction between envoy, counselor, and advisor? Envoy is someone delegated to go to like a diplomat.
Danielle, you'd start to say something before Brandon spoke there.
Oh, no. I was just saying that I'm debating between Swordmaster and Warmaster because I'm still figuring out what those. I assumed that Protector was kind of more like bodyguard that's around that house area, like the physical house, but whichever of those.
So Swordmaster is, they say, also known as the weapons master. The title of Swordmaster is an ancient honorable one. They are expert in martial matters, serving as military advisor, tactician, and bodyguard. Oh. They take a personal hand in training. And then it says a war master, where the sword master is expert in single combat. A war master is the house general. It's their job to lead house troops into battle in whatever form that might take.
I think that Swordmaster is more the place that I'm looking at.
Excellent. Brandon, you were saying the question was between envoy and counselor, right?
And counselor and advisor, for example.
Okay, sure. So advisor. There are many areas of expertise that a ruler needs to be conversant with. They might be politics, home business, finance, social etiquette. While a single political advisor is most common, some houses employ several advisors in many different areas. So they're an expert in a particular area. A counselor connects the ruler to the people who serve the house, receiving and sorting through requests from the citizenry to pass on, and then presenting the ruler's decisions to the people. Is a counselor's responsibility to oversee the minutiae of how the house is run. The envoy is the diplomat responsible for the house's foreign policy, that is, peaceful interactions between the house and their rivals, Chom representatives, Lansrod, third parties like the Bene Gesserit or Spacing Guild.
Gotcha.
Fraser, where are you thinking?
I might be an advisor in a particular field, which is the faith.
That would make sense. And it would explain why you're kind of going out and acting, interacting on that aspect.
Yeah, I'm like proliferating that particular thing. Yeah, because envoy seems more political, it seems the definition is.
Mm-hmm. Are you looking at envoy then, Brandon?
I might be. Tell me which one you think fits. I think I know what the character does. I think she is involved in intelligence.
There's also the marshal. Let me tell you what the marshal is. You're talking about intelligence here, and not necessarily in this sort of spy thing. The marshal ensures that the house's laws are enforced and that the house's territories are orderly and secure. They coordinate with others on matters of security, as well as law and judgment, and answer only to the ruler. To be an effective investigator, a marshal must understand the underworld, and they're responsible for those kinds of things.
I like that.
that actually does seem to fit with the concept there.
So I'll take that.
Fraser, advisor, counselor, envoy. You said advisor.
Yeah, I think advisor.
Okay.
So we have an NPC representing us to all these people.
Yes. One of the NPCs that you're going to have to name is the person who is above you. You'll have to give them a name, and then we'll have everybody assign one other. But let me ask some questions. Let me get introductions of characters here and ask some questions. So I am going to go across the keeper, left to right. You will note that for this session, that's the order I'm going to go in. What I usually do is then the next session, I'll tick one over and we'll start from the second column and wrap around. I try to do that, kind of vary. So the person who's in slot one is not always called on first effectively. So Brandon, tell us about your character.
Sarah Finnevere is
she, her?
She, her.
Okay.
Yes. Was a studious girl who was always who was much more interested, who never ceased asking questions of her superiors until they got mightily sick of her when she was growing up. And she developed into a natural talent for it. She is very soft-spoken, but her words somehow get under people's skin. Sometimes causing them to talk, she can sometimes evoke people to say and do, things that surprise them in good or bad ways. Her loyalty to the house is based around the fact that the house must know what their rivals and their enemies are doing if they are to prevail. And she is determined to have that information out.
How old is she?
I would say she's relatively young for her post, and I would put her at about 28.
And do you imagine that she was born on the old homeworld, or was she born somewhere else and recruited in to the house?
She was. We've just come to this world, yes.
Yeah, we're in the process of arriving. The opening scene is probably the Spacer Guild ships in orbit, bringing the last wave of arrivals.
I would say that she's from the old world, but she has had her sights set on the world we're on for a decade. She had said, one day I'm going to be down there instead of up
here. Well, I see the picture that you've got chosen for her. How do you imagine her dress? Like what's her bearing when someone sees her? What are they going to notice?
They're going to notice she has warm. She wears warm browns and oranges in her clothing. with just enough decoration that it's not too austere. But long robes typically. Her hair is short, as you see in the picture. Her eyes are intense. She wears, and she has facial tattoos that are a mark of her dedication to truth. Not everyone in her line of business gets these, but she elected to do so. Her demeanor is designed to put people at ease the moment she steps into a room, even if they're captives or otherwise in a very strong state. She seems very unthreatening, and she seldom raises her voice. She has a quiet laugh, almost a chuckle, which she will bring out when a situation is sufficiently ironic or unexpected as to be amusing.
One last question for you. You have the drive statement, the truth will set you free. Is that a statement ironic? Is it sincere? Is it what does it mean to her for someone to be set free?
It's absolutely sincere. She thinks lies harm your soul, and only by coming to truth can you be free of the poisons that so many people try to sow in human society. And she, in cases of law, she has advocated before that the people who come forward with the truth be treated leniently. Obviously not in cases where the crimes are truly dire, but she believes that. So she believes it as a matter of fact, but she also believes it is a matter of faith. That the soul that is in harmony with its mind doesn't need to lie. One can always be silent.
Excellent. I like that concept of redemption. All right. That's going to bring us to Danielle. Danielle, tell us about your character.
This is Ismina Corrigan, and she is a protector in the house Anthier. And so I think she is somebody who's been probably trained since a slightly young age, but I think her parents were the people who first came in contact with the house. So perhaps like recently joined. And her general, her asset that she carries around is a handcrafted bottle of nerve-affecting poisons made by our scientists, made by the house scientists that she keeps tucked away. I think her focus statement is that if not applied in action, truth is useless. And I think her general attitude is that she has a lot of duty toward the house, and she deeply feels the mission statement of it, I think. But I think her duty is less a sense of I am consumed by the mission of the house, and more this sense that like they need somebody to help protect them. Like she is driven by this idea that you know, the philosophers and the scientists are revered, but nobody pays enough attention to how do we apply this in action? How do we keep ourselves safe? How do we keep others safe? How do we protect what we're doing out in the world? I think that is kind of her general attitude. I think she has I tried to zoom in on the picture a little more because it's hard to tell because it's shadowy. But I think she has a somewhat imposing stance. She can usually be seen, you know, standing at attention, probably against a wall, somewhat like grim, but she's not slow to laugh while off duty. So I think she very much has an on duty and an off duty bearing.
And how old is she?
I think that she's probably early 30s.
What, before she kind of, you said like recently in the last few years has joined the house, in terms of being a protector, being a military person, what was she doing before that?
I think that her family were military trained, and I think that they came here because there was a need for that in this house. But I think it would be interesting if they were like not burned cultists, but if they had been devotees of a religion elsewhere and were like burned by that. And so her general position towards that is very like, if I can't see it in the physical, I don't trust it very easily. And so she is okay with this because of the heavy focus on truth and the idea of illumination and things being out in the open, but she's definitely hesitant in matters of full faith.
So where are your parents now? Are they a member in the household? Are they part of this? Or are they dead, alive? What do you imagine?
I think that they're probably part of the house. I was thinking dead originally, but I think it would be more interesting if they were alive and maybe connected to the Swordmaster she serves under, or probably like connected to the steward of the house. So like working in the house. Nice.
Yeah, we'll get names for them. That gives you a set of ready NPCs there to work with. Excellent. Let's come next to Harry. Harry, tell us about your character.
All right, so let's see here. I don't quite know exactly. I don't have his personality figured out quite yet.
Oh, sure.
I would say out of this group, I was probably the newest person in this house's service or whatever, because we could say that this house, you know, they knew that the possibility of getting this to planet was out there. So, you know, years before they, you know, sent feelers out there, and one of their spies picked me up as a street kid from the urban planet. Ooh. Brought me back to the main moon or whatever, and kind of brought me up just to be what you call it, somebody who could blend in if that move became a possibility. So, you know, I'm excited, you know, that this is actually happening. I'm coming back to, you know, home. So what you call it, just think a street kid, probably early 20s. If you talk to him, you'd swear he's just the most boring person at all. but what you call it, he just manages to be in the right place at the right time, and it's usually, you know, coming out of the place that you just want to infiltrate and letting you in, but you know, and then he disappears for, you know, periods of time, and then comes back with something that's useful for whatever's needed. But that's where I'm starting from, but I don't know. I'll see where it goes.
Sure. I'm going to give a name to our new planet, just so we have a name to work from. We're going to call it Birindar. So we know that there was a house that held Birindar, and left. Do you imagine that, did they just leave, or did they leave a few years ago, or did they leave a while ago? What do you think, Harry?
Okay, now this is the house that's that used to hold the urban planet.
Yeah, they used to hold Birindar. They left. How recently did they leave?
I would say within like 5 years or so.
Okay.
It's not like a huge generational gap. So they found me when I was like 8 or 9 or something like that. I spent time back at the home planet for a few years, and then pop back here. So I mean,
yeah.
He's
So
this resourceful street kid.
You've seen it both when they were holding it, and then in the sort of the time after the sort of the chaos of the leaving. So you've got
they were driving the planet basically to its breaking point. And, think Harkonnens, but not quite as
not as horrible.
Yeah, not quite there.
So tell me about what you chose for your drive statement.
Okay. The other thing that people will probably tell about this character is that he is completely and absolutely pragmatic to a fault. Which calls sometimes he'll do things and you don't understand why he did them. It's usually a good thing, but he has no problem making a hard decision if it has to be made. And like this, and truth is the first casualty of war. When the shields start popping on and blades start coming, this is a guy you'd want in your corner.
For you, infiltrator, less an assassin, and more a watcher of things.
Basically the spy master is trying to teach him the other side of things, because he's great with physical things and getting in and out of places, but when it comes to social interactions, he is he puts his foot in his mouth all the time, and he'll just meander about the stupidest thing that crosses his mind, and he'll corner you, and you have to get away from him, otherwise he'll spend like half an hour with the guy.
And this skeleton master key you have as an asset, is that something given you by the spy master, or is it something that you found?
I'm going to think it's something he stole when the spy master, found him. I stole it from my situation on the urban planet. So there's some gang lord or something like that who's missing his prize, position, but who knows if he's still around or not.
Nice. That brings us to you, Fraser. Fraser, tell us about your character.
So Stahl is a young man, I think 23-ish or something. He's grown up as basically he, from a young age at birth, was sort of like groomed to be this person, which is like a mouthpiece for the philosophical aspect of the house. And I picture him as fairly short too, just like 5'5", very slight build. And he also has tattoos, but the tattoos I think would be like elements of cemented doctrine that are on his body, so that if he was visiting a foreign place and he was killed, his body still has value. People would actually be able to see these elements of our faith even in his death. And I put him as advisor, official title, though I like the idea of pollinator, where he's going out and just planting a whole bunch of seeds.
Do you think that pollinator is a role? Are there multiples of you, or are you a kind of a unique figure in the way that you approach things?
I think I'm probably maybe the first actual pollinator, like the first generation of it. I'm probably like the first person to make it to advisor level.
It's something they've been working on, training, kind of building in, and you're the first real success.
Yeah, I think like I'm like the opposite of the Bene Gesserit, where I've been kind of groomed and created for this. and I can sort of like work out the kinks of the Bene Gesserit doctrine that's been around through voice, but I'm not like the perceptive end of it. I'm just like the mouthpiece.
Okay, the voice, yeah. So 23-ish. Do you look younger? Do you look older? Or is it, it's pretty clear that you're in your 20s? It's a really interesting picture.
Yeah, pretty young, and I think pretty androgynous, like lots of vestments, and it's probably very granular in like he wears the same vestments, but the manner in which he ties it up, it signifies very different things, like telegraphing to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think other cultures wouldn't even notice, but he'd be like, "Oh, it's top knot day because I'm going to court," or whatever, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think he probably looks even younger than his years, even.
Tell me about this asset that you have.
Yeah, so he has the Book of Radical Enlightenment, Renovated Doctrine Edition, which I think is like something that we give to other people as well. And then that way, when we have our critical thought conferences or whatever we have where we have people come and critique, then all of these sort of Bible-like things automatically update to the newest version of whatever we decided.
Oh, nice. What does your drive statement mean?
Philosophy is a sharp blade. So basically, he believes he can do the same amount of change as a blade would do. So instead of killing a person, it's like a radical redefinition of self that he could inflict on somebody else. But he doesn't view it as like, I am killing you. Just like
transformative.
Yeah, like in the sense that from one day to the next, you have the potential to learn something that would obliterate the previous self that you were.
Perfect. So, just so you know, on the character creation tab, the step 8 that's on there tells you what are the things that you still have left to assign in play. Just so if you're like, okay, what else do I get to pick? That is there. I think. I
had a question on the personality traits. I'm trying to like assign them like a line, but every time I hit enter or shift enter, it's just still wrapping them weird. Do I need to do a?
If you click the box and you do format, text wrapping, wrap.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Or if you want clean lines, if you do a control enter before the dashes, that might even be better.
Literally only learned about the control enter to create line breaks in cells today. I did not know about that.
I feel so much. I was doing the like Adobe /Word/other program ones.
Yeah, because it's completely different with this thing. So, well, I think we're going to stop here because I'm going to need to come up with a bunch of stuff here and get ready. I've got a lot of details that you've given me, but you can look at the characters, look at the sheet, look at the things, so you have a sense of what you might want to get to. We'll start out with you. We'll kind of set the stage of our planet, what's going on, establish the court, the cast of characters. But you're going to have a little bit of homework. Okay, here's the homework. You're each going to the name and a picture for the person who is above you in your role. And you're also going to pick one other role to name. So Danielle is doing the Swordmaster. Harry, you're doing the Spy Master. Brandon, you're doing the Marshal. And Fraser, you're doing the Advisor.
I have a question then.
Yes.
Do we think that our house has separate church and state? Like, is philosophy separated, or is it the figurehead is both of those things? Philosophy and every other aspect that we talk about?
I had imagined it as a singular figure.
Okay, yeah.
Are you
I just
okay
wanted
with
to
that?
make sure that everybody was on that, because I think the above the visor would be that person.
Okay. Yeah. So let me ask you this. What other role do you want to create the NPC for? The only one I'm going to hold off on is the ruler. I want to come up with her because I want to switch the gender on that, since all of the Frank Herbert ones are males. So that's going to be that. What other NPC do you want to come up with, Fraser?
I like the heir.
Okay.
And so they're sort of learning the ropes as well. And I'm funneling the information to the heir, who's funneling it up to the ruler.
Perfect. So you will come up with their name and find a picture for us for next time. Then Harry, what do you want as your other NPC?
Okay, for the second one, I want the treasurer.
Okay.
Oh, and real quick, yeah, because I'm technologically what's called behind the times here.
Sure.
I see everybody's got a picture on their character sheet, but I haven't been able to figure out how to put a picture into that little box.
So what you're going to do is, this is what I usually do. Some people can do links and stuff like that. This is how I always do. I have the picture on my hard drive, and then I go select the box, and I go to insert up at the top, and you can insert image and do image in cell.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It is not intuitive.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Then Danielle, what's the other NPC that you wish to define?
Can I do consort? Is somebody
Perfect.
awesome?
And then Brandon, what of the remaining ones, what's the other NPC you'd like to define?
I think I'll do the chief physician.
Okay. Excellent. And I will take care of the others. If you find a good picture and you're like, oh, during the week, we have an NPCs tab, and you can go ahead and drop the picture into one of those boxes there and make any notes that you want to have on there. So we will take up from there next time. Now we've got our session 0 out of the way. Any questions before we wrap?
Does this system not have any bonds or anything? Should we be thinking of anything or make notes about that?
Oh, yeah, let's make that some of our questions at the start of next session. We'll ask about, we'll kind of try and establish some relationship questions with the other characters. That's a really good point, because it doesn't have any of those bonds, and that would be really good to have. Awesome. Yeah, I'll make a note of that. Bonds at start. Okay. So I'm going to stop the recording.